do with recruiting.
Period here. Coach, we've got 21 new Grizzlies on the roster as of right now. Your initial thoughts on what's shaped up to be a Montana heavy class and a lot of talent in this class too.
Yeah, it's the second year of the early signing period. Kind of fired up about the way the structure is now. I really like how things have gone. Even last year when we were scrambling around with new job and working two classes, it was good. Justin did a great job of putting this together with help from the rest of the staff, and just excited about 11 Montana guys. As you mentioned, Eric, it's heavy with Montana kids, which is our way. And we're going to try to recruit every Montana kid that we think can help us win a championship, and then we'll go elsewhere for the rest. We're heavy on the fronts, offense and defense. Again, obviously we've got some deficiencies there, starting with last December. And those things don't get answered in 1 year or 2 years. That's going to be a consistent theme through next year as well. But really like this group of kids. We got a lot of big-framed running guys, which is sort of our way of building the football team.
You mentioned the early signing period. What do you like about it now that it's been about a year?
I think it cleans things up a little bit, just in terms of kids making their decisions, and you don't have to spend time diffusing things at the end. I mean, we had a couple here the last couple of days where you start getting bombs thrown. When you have kids committed to you, a lot of times they get some bombs thrown their direction, and you spend more time talking about a false narrative rather than the nuts and bolts of why you choose a school. So I just think it's cleaned a lot of that stuff up and gets the kids that want to sign get done. We just as soon have recruiting in our rearview mirror so we can get on to the next season preparation rather than delaying that another 6 weeks. So I think it's good for everybody.
Is there a difference in priorities from the early signing period to the later signing period, or an emphasis?
No, I think your needs are your needs. And again, that just depends on what your recruiting philosophy is and what you're looking for and how you do it. I don't know how to. I think we're not real adamant about signing a bunch of guys early, but when you can get what you think are great players early, then you get them. And so we're kind of done for the most part.
Do you think the fact being in Montana, you kind of have a lot of guys identified? Does the early signing period have an influence?
Yeah, I think that locally, certainly everybody knows each other really well. I mean, all these guys from Montana we've signed, we've been in close contact with since maybe even you'd say last winter and certainly last spring. And I mean, there's some somewhat late arrivals to the class in that regard, even the Montana kids, but we all know each other, and they've been here and been around us. We've been around them.
Just the one transfer, can you maybe just speak to him?
Yeah, so this is the signing periods. This early signing period used to be just for JCs, guys that could come early and were academically qualified. So that was what this was for as long as I've been coaching. It was an early JC signing period. So Cordell's a guy that's ready to go, both from an academic standpoint and a playing standpoint, and good to get him. Obviously, it addresses a need. We're not going to be a team that's primarily based on transfers, either 4-year or junior college. We're not afraid to take a couple of those guys, obviously, but we're going to base it on freshmen. So these are guys that are, any JC guy that transfers in now is coming in January. He's academically ready to do that. And then any other transfer, 4-year or whatever, those guys have already signed a letter of intent, so they don't really have a national letter of intent day.
What do you like about his play on the offensive line, and what do you think he'll bring?
He's big and physical. I mean, he's from Kodiak Island in Alaska, so coming out of high school, you don't get a lot of recruiters through Kodiak Island. You don't get a lot of visitors in general, but he's big and physical and likes to mix it up. And yeah, I really believe that his best football's in front of him.
When you're recruiting, obviously you probably have certain needs that you want, but is there ever times where you just see athletes and you're like, you know what, he's not necessarily a need, but we just want to have him?
Yeah, I'd say if you look at, probably almost every kid on this list. I mean, Chris Brown's going to play quarterback, and Cordell Pillins is going to play offensive line. Well, let me look here. Dimitri is going to definitely be an offensive lineman, but beyond those guys, I mean, everybody on that list can play multiple positions, maybe on both sides of the ball. So, again, you go back and you look at how we were back in the day when we were really a dominant football team. We had big framed guys and guys that could run at every position, and so we're just going to throw these guys in the weight room and see what comes out.
Especially the guys from Montana that you were able to get in this class with the guys that were coming out the first time that you were around. Is there a difference that you're seeing in just the high school football players that are coming through in general?
I mean, no, I don't think. Well, yes, I do agree with that in one part, which I'll get to. But if you look at I think at one point we had 11 guys on NFL rosters that we had recruited in here at the same time, which is, phenomenal. A lot of them were Montana kids, so they're all developmental guys for the most part, and so there's good football in Montana. It's well coached. They know how to work. They know how to play hard. The one thing I am seeing is there aren't as many big kids in Montana anymore. Used to be you could pretty much recruit all your offensive linemen in state, and there aren't as many of those guys. There just aren't. And I think part of that is if you look at the way the population of the state has shifted and how eastern Montana has become pretty sparse population-wise, and a lot of those big, farm kids of whatever Scandinavian ancestry we used to get in here, they aren't out there anymore. Those farms are huge and there's fewer people, and towns like Glasgow and Plentywood and those places are much smaller than they used to be, and then on down the line. So there just aren't as many people in Montana, at least that half the state.
When you're recruiting offensive linemen, what's your philosophy as far as what kind of kids you're looking for?
Well, guys that can play first, guys that are athletic. We've recruited a number of guys off the basketball court over the years, including some of the guys on this list. I mean, Dylan Botner is a terrific basketball player. We're recruiting big frame guys that we think can be not only tall by the time they get a couple years in the program, but giant people. And we don't necessarily look for the 6'2", 300-pound guy. That's not our preference.
When you're obviously looking at the tape and know how they play on the field, but when you're going in a living room with a kid, like what are you looking for as far as how they talk with you, or as far as, hey, I want them to be a good.
Well, once we get to the point we're in their living room, we're kind of at that juncture where we want them. So we've done all the research. We're the coin flips where we're deciding, and then once we offer, then it flips to them and they have to decide. So once we get into their home, we've we're there already. But we do a lot of research. We give them a variety of evaluations, athletically, academically, and character-wise, and we have a formula and a score on each. And if they pass muster, then we get to that point. But we want guys that fit. We want guys that we like, guys that our players like, that are like-minded with how we're going to operate around here and how we're going to produce wins and graduates. So those things have to come together before we even get into their living room.
Two guys from Bozeman,
Yeah.
Guy from Cheney. What's unique about that when you're kind of going into enemy territory?
Well, you know, those guys are they're very talented. I mean, Jacob McGowan's, I think he's got a chance to be a special guy. I would compare him to Croy Bierman at this juncture. Now, that's a weight to put on a kid's shoulders around here, but he's got big shoulders. He can hold it. And Chris is just a gem. I mean, I think he's got a chance to be really good. And Ryan Simpson's a playmaker. But they're smart guys. You know, they're all smart guys. They can see where this is going in terms of Grizzly football. And, you know, our style of play fits them. You know, we're not a triple option team, which essentially they are to the east and then to the west. You know, Jacob likes how we do things around here. So, you know, they're smart guys. They figured it out.
Some new, I guess not new for you, but new relatively recently, territories like Idaho, North Portal Lake. Once you get
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get out of the Northwest much at all, and I don't know why we need to. If we're finding guys we like and they're jumping in, you know, I always think it's best if their parents can drive here for a game and see them, and so do the parents. And you know, obviously we've got kids from across the country in our program that have had success, but our footprint's Montana and then the neighboring states, and then obviously we'll get into Arizona and California a little bit too.
Alex Hurlbert, obviously a guy that's gotten some national, attention. Just your thoughts on him becoming a Grizz?
Yeah, you know, obviously with his, it's a guy signed a Division I football scholarship. You wouldn't say he's got a disability, but when you have one arm, it's somewhat of a handicap. So that's why it's been a national story. He's a special kid. He's a tough guy. He plays with an attitude. He's a great player. I'm just glad he's here with us. And you know, I think maybe people shy away from that, but that's not used as a crutch by him at all. I mean, he's a dominant player when you look at the film, and we're hoping that translates to the college game, and I think it will.
You touched on this earlier, but can you say a little more about maybe what the difference was here for year two, but really almost year one in terms of a full recruiting cycle, and what you were able to do differently or better because you had a full year coming into it?
Yeah, having a full year, obviously you get to cultivate some relationships and maybe hang on to a couple guys. Like last year, both the early and the later signing date, we had some guys that were coming, and then, you know, San Diego State was hard on us. You know, they came in and saw who we were offering and jumped in on them. And so some of my buddies got an earful on that, but, you know, recruiting, there's no friends in recruiting. We're buddies again after signing day. But we had a couple guys that I've been trying to get them to offer, like 5 a year ago for a year, and then we came up here and offered them. They were in on the next week, so they didn't believe me. I really liked them, I guess, till we actually offered them up here. But, you know, it's just you're entrenched with these folks. In last year, you know, you kind of taking some risks and trying to evaluate in a shorter period of time. And I would say that, you know, 4 years from now, when we come out at the end of this thing, we look at these guys graduating, that we'll probably have a higher percentage of guys that are, you know, all league players in this class than the previous one, just because we've had time to really evaluate.
a couple of these linemen playing basketball. I know there's a couple other guys that actually consider playing college basketball. Name was Jesse Owens. What's it like?
And Ryan Simpson. Yeah. Well, they have to choose, you know, at some point what their the game they love the most is. I think that a lot of us grew up really liking basketball, and you know, it's more comfortable. It's a controlled environment. You come in, shoot some shots with your buddies, you pick up game. It's, you know, football, you're squatting and cleaning and running into people, and you know, there's blood and broken bones and all that stuff's outdoors. It's snowing. It's 95 degrees out. You know, there's a different mindset, and that's why, you know, football's not for everybody, and so you have to choose that path. And these guys are definitely football players, and you know, as I said, recruiting guys off of the basketball court is historically for us has been productive, and these guys are terrific basketball players, obviously.
You mentioned you feel like you're pretty much done, but is there another position or two or something that you're still thinking will be an addition down the road?
Not really, Derek. We're kind of done. We've got one more spot kind of teed up, and we're hoping to sign one more guy tomorrow. And we've got one kid waiting on another kid. So we'll probably sign one more tomorrow. And then after that, I don't know that. I mean, we really don't have. I mean, you've got our number. I mean, if at my way, we'd take 50, but we don't get to.
One of them be your sister's son. What's that like for you?
Means I just got to deal with my mother and my sister more. I mean, Derek knows them. It's hard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I should talk about Ryan and then I'm going to answer that, Guff. Ryan's a good get for us. He had other offers and chose to stay home, and you know, his obviously the family ties to this university beyond his uncle are strong, and certainly he's a good get for us. And getting a guy out of Missoula, and you know, the neighbors pushed really hard on him. I don't know why they wasted their time, but they did. So good. But he's going to be a good get for us. And then Guff asked me who I thought an impact player was. I don't know how to answer that all the time, Guff, because well, and then the other one is, if we didn't think they were all great players, why the hell would we sign them, you know? And so exactly, this guy's the best class in America. Texas be damned. So, you know, I don't know. Some of them are farther along physically. So when you look down and you don't know, like the front guys, they're not necessarily going to play next year. But a guy like Jacob McGowan's a guy that's maybe physically ready and can come in and have an impact because he's physically ready. Nick Osmo's a guy that's physically ready. Jesse Owens is ready. Ryan Simpson is ready. So Corbin Walker's ready. Trevin Gradney's ready. So those guys are probably at, you know, December 2018, the guys that you would say don't need as much weight room time as the other guys.
Trevor Gradney's dad played for Cats, so what's it like to kind of swing a legacy kid over there?
Yeah, Big Joe. Joe Gradney's a great guy, and I appreciated him being open-minded because, you know, that's an interesting thing, especially when you're a former player there and you actually love your school, and to have to come to summer camp and be sitting in the stands and see your kid out there in the middle of this stadium with the head coach's arm around him, tell him it's okay. You know, you kind of have to be okay with it too. And so a lot of respect for the Gradney parents and Joe in particular, because it became really enjoyable recruiting Trevin because we got to have a little rivalry game banter, and Joe was good-natured about it, which allows it to be fun. And, you know, I go back to, you know, recruiting Kirk and Kelly Timmer's son Ty a few years back. That ended up being fun because it's Montana. We all know each other and are old friends, and it's fun if you let it be. And it was enjoyable to recruit Trevin.
Are there any other kind of guys on this, maybe like it, Trevin, when you first start doing your initial screening, you're like, I'm not sure if we have a chance on this guy, but we're going to go for it anyways. And then as the process goes, you're on the fence, and then you end up getting them?
I don't know. You know, we kind of, most of these guys, I mean, that's why we're here in December rather than February, because these guys are all pretty much in with at least 1 foot from day one. So not too much of that this year. Thought we had one, but you didn't make it.
The facilities arms race in college football, how much do you think the Champion Center helped you in this recruiting?
Well, like I always say, I think it really helps both in recruiting and in terms of what we'll do with these guys the next 18 months to 2 years. You know, in fact, now that we're a lot of these people, especially the Montana folks that are familiar with the history of the program, we show them with the old locker room, the old weight room. They can't believe it. In fact, Joe Gradney was like, "You won all those games, and this was the weight room?" You know, and I said, "Yeah, now think what we're going to do over here." So I think the biggest impact is when they come in and meet with Matt Nicholson and our strength coaches, and they see what we can do for them in terms of developing them and their ability to play. I think that's a major selling point. And it's not oh yeah, this is a nice place, it's beautiful, but it's what can be done in terms of work, and that's our kind of guy. That's the kind of guy we want.
It's been like with Justin, he's been here through all the different coaching changes over the years, and he's been kind of leading this thing. What's it like having Justin Green with you?
Should I tell the truth or say, "Oh, it's great"? No, he's tired of me. He needs a break. We're going to take a few days off, but you know, the best part about Justin is obviously he's pretty much Montana Grizzly through and through. When we recruited him and coached him, it took him 10 months to be elected a captain here, and he's never really let go of that. So he kind of captains our recruiting efforts and does just a great job. And the best part is because coaches are generally highly competitive and highly emotional, and he keeps a real level head when we're having some disagreement. And you have to have disagreement in order to have discussion, and he does a good job of refereeing it all and keeps everything going in a fairly straight line for us, which is important in the recruiting process.
What about the impact of being able to bring recruits here for a game, knowing that kind of nobody else at this level can match that experience?
Yeah, what we try to do is we try to get them to come up on their own for a game rather than bringing them because on the official visits, we feel like the number one strength we have here is our people. And when they come for a game, we don't spend time with them. You know, we don't get to know each other. They don't, you know, game day's busy for all of us. And for me as a head coach, I have to be a recruiter's an important part of my job description. And when they come for the game, we don't get much time with them. So we don't get to know each other very well. So we try to get them to come up on their own and experience it. We do bring some kids in for official visits for games, but we only do that if they can't make it on their own.
Different families, different players will have different priorities, of course, but what would you say is the single biggest selling point of the University of Montana in terms of kids wanting to come here to play football? Why are they coming now?
Well, there's a couple things. You know, we are talking about a football scholarship, so they definitely want to know about the football program A to Z, how we do things, you know, who's going to be coaching them. And the other thing that we tend to sell here is a great university, and I mean, look out the window. It's a beautiful place. It sells itself that way, and I mean, I think this is the greatest college town in America, and that's how we sell it. And, you know, your guys' perspective on recruiting is that we're selling these kids our university in the recruitment process, but equal or maybe 60% of the process, in my opinion, is the evaluation process and getting a good fit, evaluating the film, getting a good player, and getting our kind of guy. So selling, it's easy. Yeah.
What stood out to you about him, and what do you think he'll bring?
Well, he's a good athlete, Frank. He does a lot of good things. He really, in my opinion, kind of emerged. We've kind of known of him for a long time. He played AAU basketball with Ryan Terrell, so I've known him. He's got great parents, and I just think he's a guy that kind of has really matured over the last 12 months and has grown into a pretty dynamic guy that's going to fit in, and he's, I would say, as thrilled as anybody in this class to be able to play for the Grizz.
First one in.
Yeah.
7:01 in 2 seconds.
Yeah, from offer to commitment. So I called him and I said, "Hey, Trevin, we're going to offer you a scholarship. Okay, does that sound good?" "Yeah, Coach, that sounds great." "Any questions?" "Nope." I said, "You talked to Coach Oliver about it, right?" "Yep." I hung up the phone. I was sitting there, his Thursday night football game on, and took one more bite of dinner and phone. I'm in. So that was good. That's how it ought to be.
Yeah, just imagine.
There you go.
Awesome. I think it's great to get things kind of going. Most of these guys have just finished up playoffs and championships, and with the early signing period, they're not twiddling their thumbs all the way to February, as other coaches decide, maybe we'll lose a guy, and it definitely cuts down on that for sure.
How does social media change the way that recruiting works / the way that you can view a kid and how he uses social media and all that?
It actually helps us probably more with the vetting process. You get to look at a kid and what he thinks about, and what he talks about. Some guys have a little bit of an alter ego on social media, so you get to really kind of learn more about the kid. Yes. I think that it hurts them more than it helps them, because again, if we want guys that are talking about football, and that's what we want. So guys that are directed that way, you'll see that a lot of our guys have their football pictures in there, and they're excited about football and those type of things. The other thing that's probably that's helped a lot is Huddle. Huddle has really transformed our ability to be able to see anyone in the country, and more in our recruiting areas, to where very few guys go uncharted, because we can pull up their film, as far as our access to them.
On that note, though, everybody has a huddle. Even class of kids in Montana have a huddle now. So is it overwhelming ever, or I guess how do you parse through all the tape that's out there?
Well, first and foremost, part of the tape is the hopefully the kid has a highlight that gets you to watch the next play. At some point, you're looking at how many plays can you really look at? Well, you could get 5 plays, and do those first 5 plays get me to watch the next 5 plays, and so on and so forth. But if that's the case, and I don't like the first 5 plays, it's going to be hard for me to watch the next one. So, and we try to do our best to educate the guys that we're recruiting. Put your best plays. This is your resume. Put your best plays at the front. If don't put a 1-yard touchdown. It's not. Well, we want something that. We always joke around. I want something that I can't do right now. And as a coach who hasn't touched a weight or conditioned, I could score a 1-yard touchdown right now. So give me the guy who, he scores from the 99-yard touchdown, or the guy who ran over 6 guys to get into the end zone, or as far as a running back's concerned. So that's some of the. You can cipher those guys out. And then after, we really want to watch game tape anyway. So the highlight tape does nothing but get us to the game tape. So.
Anybody in particular that's tape really stood out to you, most of these guys?
I truly like them all. I mean, you look at this, this is a physical group of guys. And when you, being here for the different coaches that we've had different philosophies of what we would take, and you look at this, and there's not a guy on here that is not physical. There's guys on here that are showing, as far as skill positions, if they have the ball in their hand, they don't run out of bounds. There's offensive linemen in here that talk with a physicality. I mean, they actually talk physically. Basketball players, Coach mentioned, athleticism as far as our big guys go. It is by far a different mentality as far as this class is represented, as far as our length and size.
I got a question for you guys. You ready?
Who knows where Moldova is? Where? All right. Between Romania and Ukraine, right? Got it. In beauties, be known as a bohunk. Which one of these guys is from Moldova? Yeah, there you go. Figure that one out. Do a little research. We good?
What kind of player he is?
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a big, fast guy. Hasn't played much football. He's from Moldova, so we'll see. If he likes that he seems to like that American football. I don't know why he came. It must have been because soccer wasn't for him. Say again? 2 years. 2 years. Yep. Fired up about that dude.
I'd like to ask you your thoughts on the social media influence on Twitter, or on recruiting.
Yeah, we tend to like guys more. I talk about our kind of guys that aren't real big social media guys tend to be more our speed. There's some kids on this list that you didn't know existed. And I don't have any problem with Snapgram or whatever, Twitter and all that. My kids do it, but social media, Twitter, all that's not the real world. I think they get polluted a little bit. We depollute them when they get here. And now that football coaches have caught up to the real world, we can text kids, so we don't need to DM them on Twitter anymore. So, no need. Merry Christmas. You don't get to ask any. You're not media. Merry Christmas.